Before we start, may I ask a question? If we have supply chain and procurement professionals, could you please tell me if you have an individual director, a supply chain director that your team belongs to? How many of you? Can you please raise hands? Is your team an individual supply chain, part of a supply chain directorate? Part of finance? Part of legal? Part of comms? Well, that's interesting because I remember that, or I'm thinking many years ago, and throughout my journey in supply chain and procurement, that at some point I thought that I need a therapist because I had an identity crisis. And this is because for supply chain and procurement, we discuss contracts, we belong to legal. Because we discuss finance and savings, we belong to finance. Because we have supplier relationships, and the key is the word relationship, we belong to comms. And then COVID came, and we are best, and we are on our own. However, my identity crisis continued with sustainability. Because we have stakeholders, again, we belong to comms. And because we are dealing with people, we belong to HR, for example. So I'm the head of corporate sustainability and supply chain development, so bingo, you can understand my situation. So today, I realized that I don't have my click thing. So I found it, thank you. So today we discuss sustainability in the supply chains, and why should we care? It would be good to work. Thank you. So why should we care, and why delivery by collaboration? So we know that supply chain and sustainability are interconnected. Supply chain is the supply chain division within a business organization is the closest one that can support the sustainability principles and goals. And predominantly for considering that there is not one area within the business ecosystem, within the business, that does not have any supplier relationship, it makes sense to use these relationships as a leverage and to work collaboratively to support us for our directly and indirectly for our sustainability goals. However, it is very important to ensure that how this collaboration will happen and how we can ensure that we have the suppliers as part of this journey. And considering that the sustainability is not one thing, and this cannot be strategized, and I have this discussion a lot the last days, we cannot have a sustainability strategy, but on the contrary, we can have a strategy on how we can integrate sustainability, because it is a mindset. It's how we can demonstrate our caring, how we can demonstrate our responsibility, how we can demonstrate our ethos, our principles to, as an organization, as individuals. So being a caring and a responsible and ethical person, team, organization obviously has an impact because we are role models, but we cannot have a wider impact and for the greater good if we don't have other role models around us, isn't it? So we need to find ways to, first of all, ensure that there is this holistic approach, but at the same time, we take these suppliers with us on this journey, and we ensure that we start from the early stages. And the first stage, of course, is to identify what we want. So it is a self-awareness stage, first of all, because we cannot go out and ask the supply chain to deliver something that we don't know what it is. And there are so many variants in this sustainability discussion. So we need at least to be specific with our ask. So I wanted to share some thoughts about this journey and how we can integrate sustainability in everything we do. And the development of the supply chain can be a start, because this is where we have the identification of any gaps we may have, not only about the products that we may need or the services, but it could be also the skill sets. And at the same time, it is where we can identify what type of qualitative elements we need from the supply chain for the principles alignment. It is also the reactive point where when we identify that something does not go as we want for the existing supply chain, we can rectify this through the development. As part of the tender process, let's say that we increase the awareness, we attract the right suppliers to our supplier mix, and these suppliers want to bid for our business. Then, as part of the market engagement strategies, we have another opportunity to share what these principles are. So the market engagement is with our supply chain as a pre-tender process is not only about the technical assessment, it is also about the principles alignment that I mentioned before. So it is another stage that we can share, and we have this consistent message from the awareness, and we're going to the how to bid for us. As part of the tender, we have another opportunity to integrate sustainability questions. But again, we need to be very, very specific with the ask. What is the story so far, and what you're going to do specifically for the contract you are bidding for. Not jargon. We don't need jargon. We don't need things to trick or confuse the supply chain. Just understand if sustainability is part of their corporate DNA, it is acceptable to be early in the journey, but the important is the consistency and the commitment. Or to put it more right, the rethink of how they can do something to improve the position that they are at this moment. As part of these tenders and the questions, sustainability can be part of the KPIs and ensure that we share in advance that this is our expectation, and this sustainability becomes part of the contractual obligation. Moving to the next stage, post-contractually, there is another way that we can engage the supply chain for the sustainability principles. And here, the beauty of the supply relationship management model that we may have in our business is that this can capture both the new and the existing supply chain. The reason I'm saying that is because if it is a new supplier, they have passed this journey of this is what we want, set the expectations from the awareness level, from the development, from the tender, so they are used of what to expect from the SRM. For the existing supply chain, though, it is different, because this is where we have the opportunity for contracts that may have not provisioned sustainability principles. We have this opportunity to work with the suppliers for this over and above, and capture these areas of common interest to work together for the greater good. So if we haven't done anything in the first stages, there is always the opportunity to do this post-contractually. And of course, the SRM can lead also to this, the creativity, the innovation. And by innovation, I don't mean necessarily the technology. I mean as well the business model. It could be a skill set. It could be something that will deliver value. And it is very important to consider as well the overall life cycle. Let's think that this relationship will last at least for the contract duration, but the impact will be even after that. Having a consistent interaction with the supply chain can only change the dynamic and change the narrative of what else and how we can develop, we can improve areas of these focal areas that I mentioned before. And obviously, in this way, we make things in a more systemic way, because together we can ensure that we have a more sustainable relationship. So it is a multi-layered situation, but integration and collaboration, they are going together, because only through the collaborative working we can have this openness and trust that we need in order to understand what it matters for each organization. So if we think that as part of the relationship and the sustainability, that it is predominantly a mindset, that this includes a lot of personal beliefs that we need to somehow to quantify them and to make them more objective as well. But it entails an element of this mutuality and this commitment to do the right thing in the right way. And for this reason, we need to ensure that there is a transparency-oriented communication with two ways engagement, and ensuring that there is the right level of feedback and right level of interaction and engagement of the proper stakeholders, because it is very, very easy for people to leave behind and not follow because they don't feel that they have a role or they have a goal. And it is really important, this communication, to be in a way that people will feel valued about their contribution. And of course, there is this, the externalization. It is important in the sense that we need to share with our colleagues of what we are doing. We need to share them, even the challenges. We need to see who else can support this journey. It doesn't need to be something that it is just a small group of people that care or they are passionate, because here it's not about the obsessive passion. This is about being constructive, being specific, and also identify what it matters. And I had a discussion just about an hour ago, and they told me that we value what we measure, and it is so true. So it is very important to understand how we can approach people within the context of the supply chain, but also the internal stakeholders that make things more meaningful for them in order to ensure that they will be engaged in order to play their role as we integrate sustainability in the supply chain. So just a schematic of what I just shared. The development of the supply chain through the tender process, we arrived to the supply relationship management and the collaborative working and the innovation. And from the development, we have obviously the information that we receive from external, from the market and the industry, and internally from the procurement cycle. So everyone has some type of, they are somehow are dealing with our suppliers. So it's not only the category managers, for example, or the clients that they are working with the suppliers directly. We have the finance that are working directly. We have the legal that we have technicians, isn't it? Everyone. And based on this feedback, either we are going back to the development in order to cover the gaps, as I mentioned, or we are going to the SRM process in order to work things out there. And this is, of course, where innovation happens. And together with the systems, the right systems and data that they can be converted to an information, a story, this is where we need to combine with the communication, and we have the holistic approach for sustainability. So as some last thoughts, it is very important to have a pragmatic approach. Not everything starts, not everything happens in one night. I shared about 10 days ago that there is this myopic approach, this short-termism for sustainability, that it is like we have the gym's membership, where after 2 hours in the treadmill, we believe that I believe that I can fit in a dress of 2 sizes less. It doesn't work like this, sustainability. We need to have the long-term approach, and we need to ensure that we capture everything. And every single element, everything matters and everything counts, but we need to capture this. So 1% now, 1% more and more and more will lead us to where we need to arrive. But we need to have this consistency and commitment. But I'm changing a little bit the narrative for the consistency, because it's not about doing the same thing all the time. It's about rethinking. It is important, rethinking what else we can do, how else we can do. Let's focus on what we can do, what can be done, not what cannot be done. Let's change this narrative. Structure is important. We see that there is a lot of enthusiasm. It is good to have the enthusiasm. It is good to have the energy in the room. Let's have sustainability. I shared before my mistake. When I realized what sustainability was all about, I started with my I love sustainability t-shirt approach, and I needed to change my message on why it matters and what's the point. So what? So let's have the structure, let's have the discipline. I distinguished before, not sustainability strategy, but the strategy to integrate sustainability, and this will lead us internally for the supply chain. Use the hard way. It's not easy. It's not easy, but let's be persistent. And of course, collaborate. It is fundamental. It is fundamental. So, thank you very much, and let's discuss. Thank you.
Thank you.
I found it.
Yeah, I know. I knew you'd find it eventually. Do we have any questions from the audience? If anyone has any questions, put your hand up and we'll bring a microphone out to you. Okay, seems quite straightforward. You've clearly explained everything perfectly, so no one has any questions.
Thank you. I am here in any case, so please, if you have something or if you want to clarify, I'm more than happy to. Thank you very much.
Yeah, as we say with all of our speakers, you can always catch them in the networking area between sessions, and by using the app, especially if you're remote and online, then you can ask questions directly to all of the speakers as well. So, Eirini, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.